Welcome to the Tradies in Business podcast with your hosts Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Divert your phone and grab a brew as Waz and Nick unpack tips, tales, secrets and stuff-ups from guests both inside and outside your trade, helping educate and inspire you to break the cycle of gut-busting and money stress and create a true trade business.
I'm feeling really frustrated, Warwick.
Why?
I've got to do some quoting.
Yeah, but that's just part of life, isn't it?
Might be part of life, but it's long and it's labour intensive and it's hard work and I never know if I've got it right.
Why does it take you so long?
Because there are so many parts to what we need to do.
But don't you just write it all down and work out how much it costs you and then you just add a bit of a margin and you're good?
Well, that's one way to do it. But there's a few ways to skin a cat and I want to make a profit.
It is pretty hard, isn't it?
It is a lot of work. You think about, from a builder's perspective, I need to quote to build this brand new house. How many parts are there in that house?
Yeah, and jokes aside, it does my head in. Hey, I do not envy your job or any tradie for that matter. I think about all of the components that go into a job and it's no wonder it causes so much stress and late nights and cock-ups, like just missing things, and then you find you've done a bathroom reno and get to the end of it, it's like, shit, I didn't make any money on that.
But the problem then is it'll take, another month or 6 weeks to get all of the invoicing into the system and then to sit down and have the time to analyse and figure out whether I actually made any money or not.
And that's the biggest thing I see out in the marketplace with tradies is that last thing doesn't happen as often as it should.
No.
It's like, how much money are you making on your jobs?
I don't know. There's no money in the bank, so
like,
not a lot.
Yeah, I'm not paying myself anything, so I don't know. I just need to do more jobs.
That's it. Work harder, work faster, take on more work.
So you do 80 hours a week and make the same amount of money, which is?
Still nothing.
None. So today's guest has a solution. Well, she's got a couple of solutions, actually.
Yes.
One is how to estimate and quote better or properly, and she actually shares her 10-step process. So she's a professional estimator.
Interesting part of the industry, isn't it?
So there's a few of these businesses popping up. There's some great ones out there. Some have been on the show before. But today's guest, Anna Turner from, Gauge PM, not only has she been estimating or contract estimating for landscaping businesses for a long time. So she's got a lot of experience there. She was actually a landscaper, so she's been on the tools. She's a lady tradie.
Lady tradie.
And she's now almost finished building an app and a job management system, basically, for trades in general, so not just landscapers. And so she's put all of her years of experience. She's been working closely with a whole bunch of tradies. She's partnered up with a big app developer in Sydney, and they're getting really close to launching this thing probably, around Easter, after Easter 2019, depending on when you're listening to this. So really cool chat today. And she's very, very abundantly shared her 10-step process to estimating jobs. So, you could go and put that in place now, and then when her app comes out, jump on board and
It'd be even easier.
Become a beta tester. So the links are in the show notes. But great chat. Grew up in country New South Wales. Very passionate about what she's doing.
Very passionate. A lot of knowledge.
Yeah, and mind-blowing stuff like $500,000 landscaping jobs.
I know.
Holy crap, imagine all the bits and pieces in that job, hey?
I think I want that life. I think I want those really expensive bricks to park my car on.
The $450 a square metre.
$480.
$480, see, I've just, anyway. Crikey.
I'm dreaming. I'm off at dream world.
All right, you go flip through our Home Beautiful magazine and we'll let our listeners have a listen to this episode.
Enjoy.
So welcome to the podcast, Anna Turner from Gauge.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Are we calling that your business? Are we allowed to say that yet?
Yep, Gauge PM is my business. Yep,
Awesome.
We're not up and running yet, but it's very exciting. We're getting close.
Yeah. A lot of work gone into it for sure. So, Anna, tell our listeners a bit about you. You haven't always been an app developer, have you?
No way. So my background is landscape construction. I've been doing that since, let's be kind to me and say the late 90s.
You started really.
Love it.
Yeah.
straight out of school onto some construction sites out at Homebush Way and motorway development and all that. So I worked in commercial construction for a good chunk of my career. And then I ended up in the UK, ran a fairly large landscape company over there in London for about 6 years. Not the whole company, but I was in charge of 26 staff in the construction teams and the maintenance teams, basically in the department.
Wow.
And did that. So it's always been construction. Thought when I was at school that I might go down the design road, but it's not for me. Building stuff's more my thing. So yeah, and then I've just worked my way through and ended up in project management and estimating and sort of that's what I do at the moment. My day job. I quote projects for landscape contractors around Australia, and help them out. And so I'm developing this app for contractors, basically, landscapers and other tradies as well. So it's for construction management and estimating all rolled into one, so they run their whole business together. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you're a lady tradie turned app developer.
That's right. Yeah. Back in the day, there wasn't too many lady tradies.
No.
But they're getting to be more now.
How did you find that as a woman in, what I guess is still a fairly blokey sort of an industry? How have you found it?
I come off a farm and I was always, you're in the sheep yards with your brother and you're doing the work. I don't care. By the way, you have to vacuum the house as well, like you're not getting it either.
It's a bit rough.
But yeah, so I never really thought that there was anything different. My mum's, she's wiry and she's tough and she's strong, and I just thought that that's what people were like until I moved to the Big Smoke. So I was just, I think of one building site I was on in Mossman I was on that build for about a year. And there was 260 people on site, one lady.
Wow.
Me. No, never once did I have a toilet to go to.
No.
Like these days, no way.
Yeah.
But back then, and I didn't even think about it. It's like, okay, I'll just hold it in all day or I'll pop to the pub at lunch when it opens. They were my options,
Dear, oh dear.
And now all this women's lib stuff, and you're like, oh, yeah.
We've come a long way.
Yeah. But I just didn't ever think about it.
No.
Yeah.
So
anyway,
you obviously grew up in country New South Wales by the sounds of it?
Yeah, a place called Glargenbone, northwestern New South Wales.
Glargenbone. I haven't heard of Glargenbone.
Neither.
Do you know Canamble?
Yes.
Walgett?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been out on properties out at Walgett. My forebears come from sheep farms out around Walgett, Coolerman and those sorts of areas. So
yeah, well there you go. Glargenbone's just a small town near Walgett.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, about 2 hours north of Dubbo, northwest of Dubbo.
Literally in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah. Still out there, Christmas Day. I'll be there.
Nice.
Fantastic.
Just you and a bazillion flies, hey?
That's right. Yeah, and some average-looking animals because of the drought. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, us on the East Coast probably feel like drought. What drought? We've had a lot of storms and the usual summer thunderstorms, and it's still very, very bad out there. So
yeah, that's right. That's right.
But we're not here to talk about sheep or farms or flies, fortunately for you.
As stressful as that is. Yeah.
We're here to talk about, I guess, you've got that background in landscape construction and now moving into an app. Why?
Because, just another little background.
Yeah.
I was the reseller for a piece of software called Liberate for about 4 years. It was a really good piece of kit for estimating, really good estimating tool. But everybody I spoke to wanted more. They wanted, once I finish the quote and I win the job, what do I do? It's like, well, here's a workaround. And people want the whole thing in one package these days. And I was hearing from all these people over the 4 years that there's lots of competition out there that I could list off, ServiceMate, Tradeify, Simpro, Fergus, and they've all got things to offer, but we're coming at it from a slightly different angle. we're starting with it. It's all about data-driven decisions, right? So giving our users, the tradies, the information that they need to make decisions in their business. And to do that, you've got to start with a really good quote. So getting the estimating package right, so it's like, and this is what I do all day is pricing, So being able to bash out a $300,000 quote or even a $20,000 quote quickly, but also the most important thing is that it's accurate, and then you can data match against it. So when the guys are in the field and they've got the app, and they can go, oh, right, so, Anna, when she was thinking, she allowed, this much time. Yeah, it took that much time. But what they do in the app is they just put in their time, and then you can go back later and see, oh, Anna blew out the quote here. Or Anna was overquoted here, underquoted there. And overquoting and underquoting are both really, obviously underquoting is a problem because you're losing money, but just the same, overquoting is a problem because if you're constantly overquoting, you're pricing yourself out of the market. You've got no control of your margins. What you want is to have a consistent margin, a consistent return. And if you do that, and if you get that, you are more likely to win the work, you'll be competitive, you'll understand your niche, So it's about putting that in a really simple way in the guys' pockets, basically, so that it's easy for them to do.
So Anna, coming from a background in construction and landscaping and pricing, I'm assuming you didn't have any experience in building an app.
No, I certainly didn't. So what happened, I started to look at the options, and I, through a mutual friend, came across my business partner, Paul Coleman, and he's actually an app developer. So we're business partners now. Paul and I could see how mutually beneficial we could be to each other, and we really didn't know each other from a bar of soap 12 months ago. But now, we're 6 hours a day on the phone to each other. So it's his team. So he's an app developer in Sydney, and it's his team that are building the app that all work for him or us together.
Yes.
And we've got 10 people working on it at the moment.
Wow.
Poop your pants, hey?
So a few sleepless nights, I suspect.
No, it's
Anna.
all good. It's all good. Yeah.
So what has I guess what's gone into the decision that this is a good idea for you guys?
Oh, look, the need to keep things simple for tradies, and I love this industry. Like, I don't know if you can tell from my excitement, but I have loved being a tradie my whole life. And every time I talk at a seminar or whatever, I just get a real buzz out of helping tradies. And I did that with when I was the reseller, gave me a taste of that. And I was like, oh my God, so many of them are missing a load of skills and knowledge. And the reason for that is, unfortunately, TAFE is awesome, but you don't learn business skills, as you guys know. You don't learn business skills with it. So there's so many gaps. And then what happens is these guys are literally, the amount of guys I speak to who are writing their quotes on a piece of paper and a pen. Still, or Excel spreadsheet. There's so many things that can go wrong with an Excel spreadsheet. And it causes big issues. And you ask them these questions, so, who in your company is performing the best? Oh, I think it's Dave. Why do you think it's Dave? Oh, he looks like he works hard. But so where's the actual feedback to say that Dave is meeting targets?
That's right.
And they've got no way of getting it. So it's about giving them that information. It's not about tracking Dave's every move. It's about showing that Dave. Oh, sorry, I thought I put that on silent.
Right. Just proves that you're actually doing some work, Anna.
So it's about giving the business owner that information, but in a really simple way. So the guys in the field are just they're raising their purchase orders, they're doing their work, they're doing their timesheets and raising their purchase orders are pretty much the two main things they do. But if they're capturing it all in our app, then that information is there for us to give to the business owner. This is working well. And it's like this task, I don't know, supply and install a toilet, you smash it. Like you're making 40% on that. Mind you, when you install a sink, you're busted. Yeah. You know, like so it's about evening that out and giving the owner the information to be able to make those decisions. And the other thing I find is a lot of guys out there don't know what type of work is good for them. They have work that they think might be right, but what size jobs bring them the best returns? What actual type of physical work? So whether it's a full landscape or it's just a bish bash bosh, you might be an awesome paver, and that's your thing. Don't get into the design and install, just do paving, or vice versa. Like if you're a design install guy, then you can't compete with the paving guy. No. So it's understanding all that information to make your decisions. But we need, like, as we know, like tradies do not like sitting down at a computer. It's not in their DNA. No. So you've got to make it in the pocket, simple, easy to use. And I think that's where we're going to really shine with our software.
So how are you making the decisions around what to include in this app?
So a lot of it comes from the fact that I've had 20 years experience actually running construction projects. So that is the initial starting point. Then I have literally dozens of, not dozens and dozens, but at least a dozen guys that I'm going to on a regular basis. And as you guys know, I asked a question in your group to get more feedback.
Yeah.
So I have guys. I have some of them that I have been with me right from the start, and I know their businesses work really well, and I know what their pain points are. And a lot of these guys, when they come to me, and girls, actually, I haven't got any girls, but I would take girls too.
Of course.
Any lady tradies listening, make sure you listen to the end, and we'll put you in touch with Anna.
Yeah, exactly. Girl power.
Absolutely.
Anyway, so what they're telling me is that they've got lots of workarounds. They're using bits of software, but they don't quite fit, don't quite match. So I'm using this bit, I'm using this bit, I'm using this bit. Things get lost in translation between pieces of software, but also the time it takes to do that, just shoot me in the head. Like you shouldn't be. And it's like I was talking to a carpenter builder last week, and the app they use is really good, and they're happy with it, and they do the timesheets. But then his wife has to edit the timesheets, and it takes a half a day every week to edit the timesheets because they're not because the app doesn't allow them to enter the timesheets the way they need. So I'm listening, like, so what's the issue specifically?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, definitely of course we can accommodate that. Of course and for me, most of the time, these are logical walkthroughs because I've been there, and I'm kind of still there with my, I still have a dozen clients that I price work for and problem solve with daily,
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting when you're talking about having the various go-tos that you try to bring together to make work in harmony. They don't work. There is no one size fits all system at the moment that has the capability to do everything that you need it to do. So invariably, as a business owner, a lot of the stuff that you should be doing isn't getting done. So I think there's real room for some sort of solution to that. That's a massive problem. There's really hard to be a professional tradesperson and running a good trade business if you don't have all of that knowledge, and there's no real easy way for you to gain it because there's just not enough time at the end of the day, or to have your wife sitting in the office spending half a day a week sorting out some bits and pieces that are obviously important, but I fail to understand why it's taken so long for somebody to see the gaps in the market for this. I fail to understand why we can't have the one system. So I'm excited to hear that there's going to be a solution to this big problem that we have.
Yeah. Yeah. And look, there are, I suppose there are the competition would say there are solutions to the problem. But I find with the lower end stuff, there's a real lack with it when it comes to the estimating side. You know, you can bash out a quick quote, but that is fine if you're just doing one light fitting or, you know, it's not built for projects. No. It's not built for anything over, say, $1,000, you know, and you really need, and that's when you need to control costs. And you think, you know, most of the projects are priced between 300 and 500K for their landscape jobs. They're people's back gardens. Yes. You know, like massive. These are not commercial jobs I'm pricing.
That's off the chain. Like that's
let's
more
talk
than
about that a bit.
That's more than I plan to spend on building my house. And they're spending that on a garden.
If you live in Toorak,
I think I'd like to live in Toorak.
Yeah, I've seen some of the houses in Toorak. My brother used to work at the Coles Myer head office on Toorak Road, and drive past some of those. Well, they're estates, I guess you'd describe them as.
Yes, that's right. That's right. And that's the difference. Like, there's a couple of suburbs in Sydney, mainly the northern beaches, where you'll get properties that large, but not. And there's a couple in the east, but really not. There's just so many in Melbourne, you know, that are just so big.
They're expensive lawns.
Yeah, but that's right. Like, lawn doesn't cost that much, right?
Yeah.
But what does cost the money is the retaining walls, the gazebo, the outdoor kitchen, you know, the fireplace, you know, built out of special bricks from Germany. Yep. You know, I priced a job not that long ago that was tiny. Like it was literally car park space. Like it was a courtyard job, so tiny. And the bricks that you're going to park that car on, $480 a square metre to buy for the tradie.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Well, you're really
like, that car better not leak its oil.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. I said that to my client and he goes, they're parking a Porsche on it, Anna. It better not leak.
So true.
Not my dirty old Land Cruiser.
That's a totally different sphere, isn't it? Wow.
Isn't it? Yeah. But that's why these jobs are so expensive. Yes. It's because it's the high-end products, but it's also the structure. Like if you're just talking a flat block, that's one thing. You don't need to spend too much money. But when you're talking about loads of level changes and retaining walls and gazebos and, you know, outdoor rooms, basically.
Yeah. It's a decent illustration, though, of why it's so important to get pricing right and to know your margins and your costs and to track everything, because you think about some of those complex jobs that you must be estimating, Anna, and it wouldn't take much of a slip up if you were doing it the old school way or doing it yourself on a spreadsheet, and you know you've blown $2,000 of margin, and you know next minute you're working for free for 6 months on a $300,000 project. You know,
well, exactly.
It kind of suck.
And just a little secret: the bigger jobs have a tighter margin.
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And the clients are friggin' sick of you by the time it's done.
Absolutely.
You know, so they're much harder to get your win on.
Yes.
You know, so you have to be super accurate with your pricing.
Yes.
And the way I price, actually, I suppose this was why people pay me to price, but I think personally it's the only way to price. I work out exactly how many screws that deck needs.
Yes.
Right? Then I add my marker, my percentage waste, and then I add my markup later. Like I work out the cost, but I work it out exactly. There's 2,324 screws needed on this job. Right, I'll allow 2,500. And how much time does it take to screw that screw in? I'm going to allow a minute a screw because I've got to countersink the holes and
Yep.
You know, so, but if you don't do it that way, and a lot of guys go on rates, and you can do rates, and in our software you will be able to do rates, but I strongly suggest drilling it down. So you need a piece of software, right, that allows you to drill it down quickly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to be going, right, you know, like, so that's the key, you know. But the more accurate you can be, the more sure of your margin you can be.
And you mentioned it earlier, part of the headspace around that and the resistance to that is the time that it takes. Because you want me to sit there and figure out how many screws I'm going to put in the deck. I'll just allow for 2,000 screws. That'll be pretty right.
Yeah.
But again,
and then what do? Go, oh, okay, so yeah, it's about 2,000 screws. Okay, it's about 2,000 holes that I've got to drill, right?
Yeah. If you even allow for that,
minutes.
right?
Well, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
And then tradies are like, I'm busting my backside, and I just don't seem to be getting anywhere. I'm not making as much money as I should, or cash flow's tight, or I can't pay myself a wage. Like, you don't understand, mate. You know, the money's just not there.
That's exactly right. And the reason it's not there is they don't know, right? They don't know where they lost the money. They just know it's not in the bank account.
Yeah.
Yep.
The other big thing I come across is that a lot of guys don't understand the difference between markup and margin.
Yes.
And they haven't got their overheads covered.
Yep.
Right? So they go, oh, yeah, I put 20% on it. Like, yeah, but your overheads are 18%. So they don't know them to start with, but you go talk to the accountant and the overheads are 18%. So you're making 2%, mate. Like 2%. Like,
and then they drop the price.
That's why you haven't got any money in the bank.
Drop the price 5% to win the work, and next minute. Yeah.
Yes. So, and that's something with our software will show markup and margin as well. And it's a part of, like, educating people as well. It's like, there's your margin. What's my margin? There'll be a little thing. This is what your margin shows.
Right.
You know, so because once they get it, right?
Yeah.
And then and in my experience, contractors that price on margin and not just focus on their markup, they cover it. And they're covered. Obviously, it's called estimating for a reason, right?
Yes.
You're going to have wins, you're going to have losses.
Yeah.
You can't guarantee that it's 1 minute a screw. It's probably 1 minute and 3 seconds, or, you know, it's 56 seconds a screw, whatever. So it's going to be up and down.
Yeah. But
as long as you cover everything in your list and you price according to your experience, and then you get feedback, and this is the big thing, right? You get feedback on whether it was the deck or the paving or the toilet that you blew out on. Yep. Which one of those did you win on? Which one of those did you blow out on? Right. Well, next time I'm going to do this with my deck price, and next time, the guys in the field are giving you that information just automatically through their day-to-day running. It's win-win, right? Like, then you can make decisions based on, like, really, this is what data-driven decisions, like, based on the data, based on the information, you know.
Yeah, it's fact-based rather than emotion or subjectivity. And I'm working with a panel beater and spray painting shop at the moment as one of my wingman clients, and he's on this pathway where it's like looking at his parts, wasn't including all of the parts in his quotes or his estimates just because, you know, he's under pressure and he's busy and he'd miss things or forget about the little plastic lug things that hold the panels on, and it's they're only a few cents each or whatever, and wondering why the profit's not there, right? And so now, you know, he sends me photos of his computer screen showing me the margin on this particular part. It's like, look at this, I'm getting 58% on this one. And so it's become a little bit of a not an obsession, it's a healthy obsession where he's he's looking at it all the time, and he's going back and reviewing a job.
He's thinking about it, right? All of a sudden he's digesting it, he's understanding it, and then if he had it, so I don't know, one of his tasks, what was he, a panel beater?
Panel beater,
I don't even know what. So that'd be spray paint. I don't.
Yeah,
there's
there's remove and replace. There's the actual panel beating where they're fixing dinted panels, and then they've got paint, and they've got paint matching, and then they've got the application of it all, and then they've got to put it all back together. So many components.
So say he has to replace a front bumper.
Yep.
Right, and he's got the removing, the repainting, or the bashing out, the repainting, the putting back on, and the touching up. Are all these different things. He lists all that labour, and then he lists all those parts, and then that's a pre-built task.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? And then next time he's doing, today he's doing it for Toyota Corolla.
Yeah.
Tomorrow he's doing it for, I don't know, a
Hyundai or something. Yep.
All right. He just swaps out those two parts. Everything else pretty much, his labour's only going to tweak.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where you get your pre-built tasks, and it makes accurate pricing really quick.
Yeah.
You know, you're bashing that out. And it takes me $500,000 job will take me about. It depends on the quality of the designs. Basically, that's the big issue, right? It can take me 4 hours, or it could take me 12 hours to price, but the average is about 8 hours. Most of that time is spent actually digesting the information and understanding the build. But once I actually sit down and start pricing, and I've got a 10-step estimating process, and that's step number 5. The actual pricing is step 5 of my 10 steps. You know, and that's the quick bit, because I've got it all set up and it's bish bash bosh, really. Tweak, done. You know. Yeah.
So obviously, we're talking about your app, about Gauge, and how awesome that's going to be when it's released. You've done a lot of estimating, you've done a lot of project management, you've been on the tools. Have you got any tips, or maybe even some of the hard lessons you've learned pricing jobs that a listener could go and execute now that would just save them time, or save them, we've talked about overhead and those sorts of things. Like, what are some of your top tips as far as pricing work goes?
Well, I could run through my 10 steps if you want to run through that.
Oh,
quickly.
hey, if you're willing to share it, I'm pretty sure people are going to be taking notes. Yep. And if you're not, take notes.
So the first thing to do, the first step of my 10-step estimating process, and I think this process increases your profitability, increases your win rate, and reduces the time you spend pricing. The main reason it reduces your time you spend pricing is because it increases your win rate. Okay, so you don't have to price as much.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first step is to review the actual job you're going to price. Now, this your panel beater guy might not be relevant to, but it's going to be relevant to your sparkies, your plumbers, your landscapers, your carpenters, and everybody else. So review the job before you start pricing it. So can I do the work? So do you have the skills and knowledge to do the work? Is the work good for your business? Do you want to be known as the company that does that type of work? And will I be competitive? I said about the paving versus, just doing a paving job versus a full design build. They're two completely same pavers going in the ground, but they're two completely different niches.
Yep.
So understanding that. So that's qualifying your leads, right? That's all about qualifying your leads. So once your lead is qualified and you decide they're worth it, then familiarising yourself with step 2 is familiarising yourself with the actual project. So getting your head round the tasks that need to be built and understanding the build sequence. Okay, this is a really important thing because when you get to the bigger projects, understanding your build sequence, or say you're an electrician and you've got to install the lights and fittings and everything in someone's kitchen. You've got to understand when you've got to do your first visit, when you come back to fit the lights the second time, when you come back finally to do the final check, so you've got to, because you've got to work in around the painter, the carpenter, everybody, right? So you've got to understand that build sequence because that every time you go off site and back onto site, that costs money.
Yep.
And you need to figure that out, So when you understand the build sequence and the actual items you need to price, that's when you do your measuring up. This takes in the landscape world, at least, I'm sure builders would be the same. It takes a lot of time because you've got to get your head round what the designer and the architect have spec'd and what the civil guys have spec'd and what the engineers have spec'd, and there's always conflicts. So get that out of the way, like understand the conflicts and get clarification then, like when you do your measuring up. Before you start pricing, you need to do that because it affects everything else. It affects your pricing and your build sequence, etc. Then that's the next step this is when I make contact. So step number 4 is to make contact with subbies and suppliers. So, and the reason I do it now before I start sitting down to actually price up is I want to give them as much time as possible to get back to me. Like a lot of subbies need a couple of weeks to get back.
Yep.
And even suppliers, like I priced a paving job just 2 days ago, and my supplier had to go to Italy to get the quote because of bespoke stuff, so there's a lag there.
Yeah.
I can't just get a price over the phone for that kind of stuff. So giving them the time that they need. Site visit with step number 5. Now, I personally definitely need a site visit if you're pricing demo works and access is the big thing to look out for there. Access is massive. That's probably the biggest mistake estimators make, is underestimating access as an issue. And that's when we're talking about our pre-built tasks. Adjusting your access part of each task is important for any tradie bringing materials on site.
Yep.
Okay. And sometimes it's like, you could have the same paving job, but it's in a front garden and it's 1 metre from the curb, so access is bugger all. Or it could be up 4 flights of stairs, way up the back. Yeah. And, and then you've got to add 2 people for 8 hours to get the materials.
That's right.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So that makes a big difference, and that'll eat into your margin like that, access. I don't think people give it enough time. So the next thing I'm going to say is don't go to site as well. If you don't need to, don't waste your time as the estimator. So a lot of the projects I'm pricing, we're not going to start on site for 12 or 18 months because the builder's just about to start. Can you imagine how different that site's going to be?
Yes.
And if you're a plumber and you're putting in a bathroom and the actual building doesn't exist that the bathroom's going in, don't visit site. Go to Google Maps, see that you can get a truck down that street, and leave it at that.
Yeah.
So don't waste time as well, I suppose. And then when I sit down and do the estimate, I always price in order of build, so the build sequence, because that gets my head around deliveries, whether I can bundle deliveries together or I have to split deliveries, or a big one is plant hire, like machines. Splitting the float of machines because they've got to be off and on site, and making sure that you've got them for, if you might only need them for 2 hours, but they're not going to come out for anything less than 4. Right. So can I do something else at that time, or do I have to, actually take a loss on that and add it? Well, don't take a loss. You add it to the quote, because that's what happens. You take a loss if you just stick your machine in there for 2 hours here, 1 hour there, whatever you think you need. And you're like, this isn't working. Where have I lost all my money? That'll be it, So understand that. Use the pre-built tasks if you can get if you're on Excel. I do pre-built tasks in Excel. It will save you. Initially, it's going to take an extra 10 minutes to price that item, but next time you price it, it'll be half the time or even less. You know. So it gets really quick, and you'll get. The other thing is the guys in the field will, when you use pre-built tasks and everything's in the same order, they get really used to viewing it that way and digesting the information. So they know where to look for the materials and what they're going to find, etc. So estimating was step number 6, not step number 5. There you go. Step number 7, check your estimate. If you've got this is when I've done my price, I step back and I go through and look. This is when I look at rates. It's the only time I focus on rates. I want to see if anything sort of stands out at me. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Like jump out at me. And sometimes I go, oh, that's really high. That concreting's really high. Hop in. Oh, yeah, it's high because of this. Or, oh, sugar, I did a typo.
Yeah.
My business partner will be really impressed with that. Really have a problem with the swearing. It's all those times on the building.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah. And, he's, the whole corporate world, they don't swear.
It's very different. That's right.
Yeah.
Very different.
Anyway, so that's when I look at my rates. Step 7 is when I sit back and I look at I've done my pricing, and I haven't focused on rates at all in my pricing. I've focused on the actual task at hand, the job in my head, because I'm building it the whole time in my head, And once I've checked and I'm happy with it, if you've got a second pair of eyes, awesome. If you work in a business with another manager who can chuck their eye over it, it's great, especially when with these bespoke builds. I'm sure builders have the same issue as landscapers. You get coming up with all these really original ideas and or interesting sites that you're working around. So, and because of that, you're coming up with interesting ways of doing things. And I've always found a partner in crime who can go, oh, hang on, we could skin the cat that way.
Yes.
And you work out the numbers, and it might be no good, or it might save you $2,000.
Yeah.
And that might be the difference, or just having a different option.
Yes.
Different set of eyes is great.
Yep.
So then once I've done all that, then I look at profit. Not till that point. Mm-hmm. Then I go back and I go, right, well, my profit, I want this profit margin. I want to put these markups on. That's when I add the profit.
Right.
And then, submitting your tender, obviously you've got to submit your tender with clarifications. So all the way through an estimate, I'm always writing clarifications. Does that make sense? So
yes,
if I see any discrepancies in the specs that I've been given, I want to clarify those. So I'm always building that, and then at the end I submit that with my tender, and that's really important because this is it's a really good way of being able to go for the cheaper option, but covering your ass about it.
Yep.
And you just can't go for the more expensive option, because if you're competing at all on price,
that's right,
you'll lose. So you need to, but you still need to cover your ass, because the designer will go, oh, but hang on. I chose those $480 square metre papers there, not the $4 a square metre ones there,
So that's So that's the 10 tips, or the 10-step process, actually, which is awesome.
It's my process, and I do stick to it. And look, the final thing is to look at what you have priced and done and review it. So did I do well on that price, on the price, or didn't I? A lot of guys put their price in, they win the job, off they go and do the work, and at the end of the month, there's not that much money in the bank account.
Mm-hmm.
And then, where did it go wrong? Or
I need to work harder.
No idea.
I need more jobs on.
And the step number 1 was reviewing to see whether you should do the work. Well, if you did the final step of reviewing your past projects, you can answer those questions much easier.
Yes.
Yeah. I find that's that's the bit that gets your jobs over the line more often.
Yeah.
Because your margins are tighter, because you're pricing work that you're competitive at. So you're not wasting time, and you're pricing profitable work.
Yes. So the app's not only about quoting. The app's looking at some other capabilities. Can you talk us through some of the other capabilities that you're working on?
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I didn't think we'd be talking about my application. So basically what we're building is there'll be something for the smaller tradies. That'll be like a quick quote that you can do in the app, but you'll still be able to. You'll raise your timesheets and do your purchase ordering in the app as well, and noting all the projects down, all the resources that you've used down in the app. So it'll build all that information, whether you price too high, price too low, etc. But it does it in real time because it's not waiting for invoices to come in. It reconciles with the invoices and it'll connect to your Xeros or MYBs or whatever. But it's doing it in real time because the guys are putting it in. So, you know, say your name's James and you have a Sparky company, you've got 10 guys out in the field. You can wake up in the morning, grab your phone, see which jobs are in the red and which jobs are in the green, and just get a quick overview of those jobs. But we've got the web app as well. So for big projects, you'll need to price in the web app on your computer. But it'll link to that field mobile app that the guys can then look at that that quote and price against, run their jobs against it. So it's basically just having all that information that the estimator was thinking. In your hands, in the field. Communication, how cool's that right now? Like, I'm the estimator and I decided A, B and C, and I write that down in my quotes already. Like, I just can't give it to my guys unless I type it all out again, and, you know. So just automatically they see the job. And you can choose as the business owner whether they just see the quantities or they see the money as well. Like, obviously, I like to say there's two different types of foremen. They're the ones that that meet a margin, a budget. They meet a budget, and they're employed to look at that budget. And then there's the ones that turn up and just do the work and tick, tick, tick. You know, they're on different price points, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
And you know, we hope the other one's going to go up to the big one. But
I guess
it's really important.
From a builder's point of view, my favourite feature is the fact that it's real time. So any of the features, and as I said, we were using 3 different types of software to try and make it work for our business, and it still was nowhere near right. But it all of it relied on the fact that we had to get the invoices in, and then myself or the admin team to sit down and plug away and enter all those invoices before we could review them. By then the job was almost done, and you know, it's far too late to fix up an error or to see where you're going wrong or right, for that matter. It's very hard to predict your cash flow when you don't know what's going on.
That's right. That's exactly right. So being able to see things in real time, because the guys are raising their purchase orders in it, they're doing their timesheets in it, so you know whether you're blowing out straight away. Now, obviously, this depends on one big thing. The guys have actually got to use the app.
Of course.
Right? Now, that comes down to 2 things. One of it's my end. I've got to make an app that's easy to use for the guys and friendly and easy for them to use. And then the boss has got to say, you don't use it, there's a big problem.
So do you provide a big stick with the app as well, just to keep prodding the guys on the field?
I'm the carrot.
Right.
Look, my experience with implementing change, and I've been in quite a few big companies that have gone through big changes in the past, there's always resistance.
Of course.
Actually, quite a lot of the resistance comes from the top.
So true.
Yeah.
So true.
I'm the boss, I don't have to do that. Like, well, yeah, you do.
That's
you know,
right.
if you want it to work. But at the end of the day, once people get over that hurdle, and making our system as simple as possible is it's going to be a bit complicated because it's capturing a lot of information, right? Like it can't be
Can't read
you know,
your mind.
like iTunes, you know, like it's more in depth than that. It's more like a piece of accounting software, really, like in the amount of information that you're pulling in and out, that sort of stuff. But what we're aiming to do is make it as streamlined as possible with the workflows, the natural, and that's my going to you guys, you know, the builders and other tradies out there and asking loads of questions. So the more I ask, the more I understand, the more we get this right.
Mm-hmm.
And of course there will be tweaking. There's, version 2 I'm sure will be better than version 1. Problem if it's not. But it's getting it as good as we can possibly. Like, we've got to listen to these people, and it's not just my experience. It's that's how we're doing it. Yeah.
Great.
So is there a launch date?
So, April?
Fingers crossed. April 19?
That's a good date. It's my sister's birthday.
So we're talking.
Why did you pick that day?
So we're talking April 2019?
Oh!
So it could be 19 for 19. There you go.
Oh, God.
That'd be a birthday present.
It be April 2019, yes. It's
Great.
2020, and I will be a shadow of the first name right now.
You'll be.
We've been building, that'll be 1 year.
Wow.
So it's a pretty quick build time, I would think, considering
yeah.
how much information needs to go into the app.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Well, this is the beauty of having an awesome business partner who has built loads and loads of apps and software packages in the past. Like, he's got a whole his system's sorted, right?
Yeah,
he
yeah.
knows how he's got it all worked out how he builds these things. So he comes to me for the information, and I go out to the tradies out there that I know and kiss with and hug every day, metaphorically, for thank yous. That are just making. But these guys that are giving me the information, they can see that it's going to help them as well.
Yes,
long term.
yeah.
That's why they're so willing. Yeah.
So Anna, what's something you know now that you wish you knew when you started out?
Started out what? Landscaping or the app?
Oh, probably in business. It's Tradies in Business podcast. So you're a tradie and you're in business. I have been really fortunate to have some brilliant business mentors throughout my time as a trade. And I started, I got off the tools quite early on, and I was lucky to do that. Look, I spent about 10 years on the tools, but I spent a lot of those 10 years also managing as well, those first 10 years. And listening, I think the thing for me has been having these mentors that have been able to give me this information that instill me with this knowledge and experience has been just invaluable. And I see time and time again, I talk to tradies all day, every day, and I see that they don't have that I have, what I got, and that it does make me a bit sad. It makes me disappointed, really, for the industry. I used to teach at TAFE for a couple of years as well. I taught professional practice, like how to run your business and estimating at TAFE. And they cut the subjects. Boo-hoo, I lost my job. That doesn't really matter. I didn't need it. I did it because I loved it. But the amount of, and they're all landscapers, but these landscapers come up to me at industry events and go, your subject was so good. I'm so disappointed they don't, offer it anymore. It's like, so I suppose if you can get a mentor that actually knows what they're doing, and the problem in our industry is that most bosses had the same bosses as they've got, just perpetuating.
So unless you get lucky, and you've got to get lucky. That's sort of why I've come up with this software. I can see that it can really help the industry, and if we all lift our game, it's we get a better reputation. And I hate the fact that the amount of people say to me, "Oh, this tradie's trying to rip me off." It's like, I can guarantee, unless you got really unlucky, they're probably not.
No.
Do you know how hard it is to price that, what you're saying? Just because it took them half the time. My standard answer is, so if it took them double the time, would you pay more?
Yeah.
No. Okay, well, back in your box then.
That's right.
But having said that, if these tradies had the data that showed what the average was, there's less guessing, right?
Yes.
That's right.
Guessing's not good for anyone.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
So
that doesn't really answer your question.
No, it was good information though.
No, I think the basic message there was to get a mentor, but I want to flip that a little bit and say you need to be open to a mentor. And that's your personal level of responsibility as a business owner, is being open to the idea that there are people out there that can actually help you with your business, and being open to doing the work that's involved with improving your business. So you can have the best mentor in the world, and if you're not open to the idea of making changes, working on yourself, working on your business and the way you do things, nothing's going to change.
No, I would agree with that. Yeah, you do need, and I think some guys get quite defensive, and they feel like they should know it, and therefore they're not going to ask.
Absolutely.
And I mean, our tradies are built tough, right? Like hard on in a cage, locked away, so you can't stamp on it kind of thing, like. Yeah. And so, yeah, maybe that's why I've been lucky, because I've been able to open myself up and say, can I learn?
Absolutely.
I know the ones that do really well in life.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So April 2019 could be your sister's birthday on the 19th of April. Could be before then, maybe after, knowing how software tends to work, but roughly then. Can listeners pre-register, or are you doing beta testing, or?
Yes, we're going to set up a website, gagepm.com, gagepm.com/beta test.
Okay.
Just double check that.
We'll put the links in the show notes too.
Yes.
I'll give you the link in the show notes. And so you can register to beta test. And if you do that, I'll personally give you a call and ask you what your frustrations are with your business, and how a lot of people are coming to me because they're using software at the moment and they've got some really big issues they want to get off their chest.
Yes.
Happy to listen to all of them. Yeah. So just listen to you, and happy for you to beta test. More the merrier. Yeah.
So there you go, listeners. If you're one of those tradies who's using software and saying, it's just not doing what I want it to do, or you're thinking about using software and you'd like to have a say in a new player in the market, basically, and get your stamp on Anna's app, then go to gagepm.com/beta test. I think it was, you said?
Yep.
Well done, Warwick.
We'll put the link in the show notes as well, if you're like me and you can only listen and do one thing at once. But yeah, get amongst it. Have your say. Anna's in our group as well, I think, in Tradies in Business on Facebook. So you can post a question there for her and connect with her via the group. But awesome stuff. I can't wait to see this come out. There's some really cool platforms coming out that are... not all of them are by tradies for tradies, because I think not all of us get it right when we're from that industry, but certainly sounds like you put a lot of thought into this, Anna, and I'm really keen to see what you come up with, because it would solve so many of my clients' problems as well. I could just recommend your app. So awesome stuff. It's been great having you on the show today.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for your time. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Anna.
You've been listening to the Tradies in Business podcast with Warwick Bidwell and Nicole Cox. Find out more about today's guest, tools for your trade business, and other cool stuff at tradiesinbusiness.com.au.